Okay, we're on YouTube.
Okay, here we are. Madam Chair, we are set.
Okay. So this is the executive committee meeting. We are here to go over the capital and expense budget priorities.
Okay, and Lori asked me to put together, I have a quick PowerPoint, just that gives a little background because we have a lot of new members to the executive team. And this is the first time ranking, and it's sort of challenging in the virtual format to do this. So I'm going to just quickly go through this if that's okay.
Please do.
Oh, can you see that?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so here we are. We're here tonight to talk about the fiscal year 2023 capital and expense priorities and district needs statement. So just a little bit of background about the community board budget process. The executive committee of CB10 meets each year in advance of the October general board meeting to rank our capital and expense priorities for Community District 10. These priorities are included in the annual Community Board 10 district needs statement. So the charter of the City of New York requires all 59 boards to submit recommendations for New York City's capital and expense budgets for the upcoming fiscal year and submit a district needs statement. So we at the district office review the service delivery requests made in the district during the year. We send letters out to our civic groups and organizations asking for suggestions and recommendations to be included in the capital and expense priority list. A capital project generally has a value of $35,000 and a useful life of at least 5 years. Requests for ongoing programs and regular city services such as street signs, building inspections, park maintenance, road repair are expense items, and just day-to-day service delivery requests should be directed to the community board office. So capital and expense priorities will be voted following the Community Board 10's public hearing at Monday, October 18th general board meeting at 7 p.m. So this is just a little bit of bullet points of what I just went over. So our executive committee meets in the month of October. Also in the month of September, we have city agency budget consultations, which I attend as district manager on the virtual format. In years past, it was open up before COVID. It was open to committee chairs if they were available. The district office does outreach, as I mentioned, to community organizations. We did a very large e-blast and we sent out some letters and we did some social media posts. And we actually got a nice a host of responses from the public. I also review NYC open data, look at service delivery trends. I take a look at submitted responses from individuals or groups that are forwarded to the district office. Then we pull the capital and expense priority list of the prior year, and then we rank them. They send it out to the general board, and then we have a public hearing and vote. So I just want to share with the executive members that we are very fortunate because there is a program now that takes all of the NYC open data service requests and organizes it through a nonprofit called Beta NYC. And they've developed this program called Boardstat. So we're able to pull up our top 10 service requests. They're actually called complaints. I like to call them service requests that are forwarded to the city agencies via 311. So I have up on the screen comparisons between fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21 that just to take a look at what our top 10 service complaints were last fiscal year versus the prior year. And there were some notable changes that I'll just quickly review. Illegal parking complaints in the district were up from 5,000 service requests in FY20 to 5,200 service requests in 21. Heat and hot water are always seem to rank second in the board, although those types of complaints don't generally come to the community board district office because they're forwarded directly to HBT, and those inspectors have to make communication contact with the tenants who are filing those complaints. So those are about the same. I would say the biggest increase, as you can see here, is commercial noise complaints. In FY20, those amounted to 332 service requests. In FY21, there were 1,000 service requests, an increase of a little over 200%. Residential noise also saw an uptick from 1,900 service requests in FY20 to 2,700 service requests in FY21. Damaged tree service requests also had a bit of a jump in FY20 from 700 service requests to 1,621. And new to our top 10 list, and understandable due to the pandemic, there was a new category added: non-compliance with phased reopenings. And there were 1,300 311 requests that were filed.
Justine, could you define what that means?
Yeah, so those complaints included residents who called up to say that, during the height of the pandemic, there are people in the park who are not socially distancing. Okay. There were restaurants or other retail establishments that are not abiding by COVID restrictions. So when I look through the list, I could tell you that that's pretty much what those types of complaints. And those saw a response from a variety of different city agencies. So as I mentioned earlier, agency budget consultation. So several of the larger agencies meet with all of the community boards in the city. Those meetings are arranged by borough. So we had the opportunity to meet with leadership from the NYPD, Parks, Department of Sanitation, DOT, DEP. And I just jotted down some of the notable there's a question on the agenda that says, how can community boards be supportive to your agency? And from the NYPD, the request was additional patrol strength, school crossing guards, especially for our board is always a request, fleet support. And we also learned that the 68th precinct will be receiving a new boiler as a capital request in FY23. So the Parks Department provided us with a list of current capital project funding that we reviewed at the Parks Committee, and their identified needs and expense priorities, which we'll talk about as we go through the list. The Department of Sanitation, you may know that I say this acronym often, MLP, Motorized Litter Personnel. That's the unit that actually goes around with a truck with sanitation workers who manually sweep the streets. And Board 10, I would say, has a higher than the average number of locations that we request MLP service. We have been fortunate this last fiscal year to have funding secured by our local city council member, Justin Brannan, in his portion of the district. We weren't so lucky in the northern end that's represented by council member Menchaca. So in the northern section, we don't have regular MLP support, but in the main part of our district, we do have 2-day-a-week MLP service. And corner basket collection is always a need that both sanitation identifies and we have also identified in the past. The Department of Transportation continued support for resurfacing and street and roadway maintenance. The Department of Environmental Protection, sustainability needs, that's kind of the new, concern, especially following Ida. And, a big part of, I think, our conversation tonight and some of the capital requests that came in were resilience and sustainable requests for new infrastructure in the district. And the Department of Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection, this is a new city agency that was once known as Department of Consumer Affairs. They now have a street vendor enforcement unit. And when we met with this agency at Borough Service Cabinet meeting, they indicated to us that they did have a need for additional officers, that they were not fully staffed. So as I mentioned, the Parks Committee did meet this month to review the capital projects. We'll talk a little bit about that. But as I mentioned, this year damaged trees, 311 service requests ranked within the top 10 service requests. I think that's notable. I think that we do need to stress that in our expense priorities. Tree maintenance and park maintenance. The Community Board 10 has put this in our top 10, which is good. We've advocated for tree maintenance, tree pruning, removal, and stump removal. The mayor's management report that was issued did speak about COVID-related budget considerations and impacts to the block pruning program because of COVID. The total number of trees removed remains relatively unchanged, but in August of 2020, damage from Isaias resulted in the removal of 3,774 trees, which was greater than all tree removals performed during the first 4 months of the previous fiscal year combined, which was 3,385. Tree inspections decreased by 37%. The decrease was driven by over 65,000 fewer inspections related to block pruning work as contracts were suspended and later reduced. The mobilization of tree inspectors after the tropical storm Isaias resulted in nearly 20,000 tree inspections in the month of August alone. So certainly, I think this also speaks to, resiliency needs, and as this was storm related. So I wanted to share with the executive committee about tree maintenance identified as an expense need in Community Board 10. We have heard from several residents over the last few months who are seeking new trees to be planted. And when they submit a request to 311, they receive a response that is on your screen. Department of Parks and Recreation will respond within 720 days. And frankly, residents feel that's unacceptable. And 2 of the requests that we received in response to our budget e-blast requesting, people said we need funding for trees or tree inspectors because it's much too long of a wait for a replacement tree, 720 days. Stormwater management and street flooding. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about this because we received many calls. We have locations in the district, as you know, the executive committee, we talk about this every year, that has recurring street flooding locations. Narrows Avenue and Colonial Road, 77th Street to 86th Street on both streets. That picture that's in the middle of what looks like an ocean on one of our streets was during Isaias, and I understand that, but this is typically what Narrows and Colonial will look like during a heavy rain. And, the neighbors there feel strongly that they need infrastructure and they have asked for continued support. We also heard this year from Bay Ridge Parkway residents from Shore Road to Ridge Boulevard. 10th Avenue residents spoke at our last general board meeting, and they requested greater sewer capacity along 10th Avenue from 77th Street to 86th Street. Those residents have organized. They had a meeting with Councilman Justin Brannan maybe about 2 months ago, and they have asked for our advocacy for that sewer project. Colonial Road again from 77 to 86th Street, Narrows from 77 to 86th Street, and 70th Street between Shore Road and Narrows Avenue. We received a request from 3 homeowners on that block requesting additional infrastructure support because of due to street flooding. So each year in our district needs statement, while we add our capital and expense priorities, we also talk a little bit about top issues facing CB10. And in the last few years, we discussed land use trends, illegal conversions, the future, this year I think is notable, the future of citywide rezonings as we plan for the future. We have a ULURP that's still pending at 6201 8th Avenue. And we've done a 65th Street corridor study. And I'm delighted to share with the executive committee that we have a Columbia University fellow that will be starting with us next week, who will commence a study of the C8 triangle, which is an area of the district that, has seen, changes in the, it's mostly car dealerships. There's a lot of empty storefronts. We had a application for a rezoning at 9114 Fifth Avenue that the board supported for housing. So we have a fellow that's going to take a look at that triangle to make some recommendations to the full board, hopefully by June of 22. And the Parks is always a big, top issue in the board. 16% of our district is parkland. We have park maintenance issues. We have tree maintenance issues as a top 10 priority. Senior services, our population is made up of 15.3% of individuals over the age of 65. And we've had advocacy from some of the larger senior groups. The Bay Ridge Center each year speaks at our budget hearing to advocate for additional services for our senior population. And then a new one that I added to the list really, and I think many of the boards and leaders in government are speaking about following Isaiah's, is wastewater and storm management. And I think that's important for all of the boards to really look at their, any needs related to wastewater and storm management and really make sure that if we have those needs to advocate for them during this process. So usually, and as there's many chairs who, former chairs on our executive committee, know that usually when we begin to look at our capital priority list, not many of them have been funded, but we were really fortunate because during our update at the Parks Committee, we learned that many have been funded. I'll just go through them quickly. The Fort Hamilton Fields courts, 2.2 million. Estimated completion is the fall of 22. Russell Peterson Playground, 5.4 million. Estimated completion the fall of 23. JJ Carty Park, a complete playground renovation, phase 2, by the fall of 2024. Patrick O'Rourke IS 201, which is a mayoral state of good repair. So it's a new asphalt top to the basketball court section there. The toddler park was done a number of years ago, but this is the schoolyard portion of Dyker Junior High School. Shore Road Park, the 95th Street building should be completed for a whopping 4.25 million. The Shore Road Park dog run, $1 million was allocated, estimated completion the fall of 23. Shore Road Park paving, 1.27 million. That's for the areas most in need, the fall of 20.
Josephine, before you move on.
Yeah.
Exactly where is the dog run?
I have a photo of it. I could show you exactly where it is, but it's right. I mean, there's a small piece by 4th and Shore Road behind that like bathroom-y type building that's there.
Okay, there's I can't remember the size. I can tell you 45 years ago was a playground and during construction work was removed. So there's an area okay, if that's where it is, I'm okay with that.
Can you see it? Oh, can you see it on my?
No.
No, okay. All right, well, I'll email it out.
Okay,
It's
thank
a
you.
visual there. I have this on my computer. If you give me like a minute or two, I could probably pull it up for you, but it is synthetic turf. It's a small.
But that's funded, Joe, right? Yeah.
It's funded, yeah.
Yeah, we had our parks meeting on that really some time back. Yeah, I recall.
Right,
Okay.
and we had a Parks Committee meeting this week that kind of went through these again. Let's see, Vinland Playground, 3.4 million in mayoral funds. Dyker Beach Park, asphalt field, state of good repair. This is just a blank new asphalt field. Completion date is estimated fall of 22. Owl's Head Park Playground, fall of 24. The Owl's Head Park basketball courts, spring of 2024. Owl's Head Park drainage and reconstruction of the slope. And this was really high on our list and was funded. And I was very happy to hear that because many of the residents each year would come. So that's the erosion control that we had advocated for many years. The Shore Road Bike Path, strategic reconstruction and engineering study to begin to explore the best use of funds for construction, designed to be completed the fall of 21. And it was like $7-point-something million. Now, I have to tell you, this is something that our board has advocated for an engineering study, and we have not had a meeting on this or outreach on it. And I was a little taken back that it was on the list. Happy, might make it seem that we weren't happy about it. But we have with Community Board 11 requested a presentation to the Community Board to understand exactly what the scope of the engineering study was and what the design is proposing and if there's a cost attached to that. So we have requested that. I wanted to share.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna be obnoxious, but I want to add that it is not the Shore Road bike path. It is both a pedestrian and bike path.
Okay.
And to ignore the pedestrian aspect of the use of that area is irresponsible. And without reviewing the need for the seawall reconstruction, it's irresponsible to put any money into that project.
Right. So I wanted to, in our capital wording, we request an engineering study of the Shore Road promenade / bicycle path infrastructure, and we mentioned the seawall. So we will make sure. Well, we have made a formal request for a meeting.
Joe, it would seem to me that that item may not be as big a surprise as we might originally think, because if you remember, we've had a number of presentations and outreach with regard to the vision that they have to hook up the whole entire paths along the waterway, going all the way down from the Brooklyn Bridge Park, and to try to hook it up, bike paths and paths with amenities going all the way down to Coney Island. And I think we've had some outreach on that. It seems to me that they may be paying attention now due to that sort of projection.
It may be
And I'm
that.
going to be obnoxious and say they're ignoring the pedestrian use of that area. I live right near the 4th Avenue exit entrance to Shore Road. And I cannot tell you how busy that is with pedestrians, families, and everything going there. You have to include pedestrian use at that site, and they are not.
Okay, well, you know what, we have made a request for a meeting, so with the Parks Committee, so that should be coming up very soon to clear that up. Let's see, McKinley Park, $5 million for the reconstruction of full court basketball courts and expand playground equipment. So that's it as far as funded items from our FY22 list. And then I'll just go into some new requests that were made following our community outreach. Larger capacity sewers, 10th Avenue, 77th Street to 86th Street. Bay Ridge Parkway from Shore Road to Ridge Boulevard. Larger capacity new sewers, 79th Street from Narrows to Shore Road due to street flooding. And sewer backups. I should have added that. Request new catch basins, 70th Street between Shore Road and Narrows Avenue. Dyker Beach Park. This was identified by New York City Parks, and the needs assessment is presented to the Parks Committee to reconstruct paths through the Bay 8th Street quadrant of Dyker Beach Park. Also in the New York City Parks needs assessment, Dyker Beach Park to reconstruct Massimillo Memorial basketball courts, including backboards and seating area, district-wide tree and sidewalk contract. So what that item reflects a ongoing calls to the district office from residents who are frustrated that they have trees that have uplifted the sidewalks, sidewalks that have been destroyed by tree roots. Yeah, and they're ranked. And many of our, I have about 10 on a list of residents who are waiting for a tree and sidewalk contract. Unfortunately, 2 contractors defaulted within the last 2 years that were contracted by New York City Parks, and we have not seen a new contract. So because it's a request that's been made, many of the boards are adding this to their capital expense priority list. I thought it was a good idea to add this also to our list, as well as a district-wide curb contract with the Department of Transportation. And this was raised also at our budget consultations meeting. So homeowners are responsible for the replacement of their sidewalks and the maintenance of their sidewalks. The curbs are the sole responsibility of the city of New York. And there has not been a curb contract, I don't believe, in at least, and we asked this question and the answer wasn't probably in about 20 years. I don't recall ever seeing a curb contract. And we get this complaint usually after resurfacing, when the resurfaces come down the street and there's a curb that's broken as a result, and often remains broken. And many of our curbs are old. And as a resiliency conversation, a lot of our blocks that have low curb reveals that are often flush with the street level, those streets tend to get flooding when there's no way for the water to properly travel down to the catch basin. So several of the boards were discussing this and advocating for a district-wide or city-wide curb contract with the Department of Transportation. So I did add that to the list for consideration tonight. We also got some renewed requests. These are requests that remain that are on our prior year on our capital priority list, but we received renewed requests. Shore Road perimeter sidewalks. We had, one wheelchair user and several residents who live nearby who requested that we work on those sections of and advocate for those sections along Shore Road Park that remain with those hex blocks that are broken up in many of the areas. Continued and renewed requests. Leif Erikson Park, the upper perimeter sidewalk. We have a group of seniors who every so often reach out to the district office who are very upset about the condition of the hex block sidewalk around Fort Hamilton Parkway from 66 to 67th Street. There's a lot of flooding as a result of that uneven sidewalk at 66th Street and Fort Hamilton Parkway during any rain event. The rain ponds and lingers there for many days. And there are a number of large London plane trees that beautifully line Leif Erikson Park that unfortunately have lifted up many of these hex blocks. And the sidewalk is really in need of refurbishment. The Narrows Botanic Garden has renewed their request for native planting along the Shore Road Promenade and adjacent to the Belt Parkway arterial highway area. Also, sewer capacity, Narrows Avenue, I mentioned that earlier. Dyker Beach Park to refurbish and expand the barbecue area. It's currently our priority number 34. Request for refurbishment of the area and additional picnic tables. Leif Erikson Park to refurbish the park between 5th to 6th Avenues and to redesign lower Leif Erikson Park. This request was from some neighbors at the Bay Ridge Towers. Near the passive recreation area, they have a request for improved lighting by the entrance of 3rd Avenue and Wakeman Place, which is currently priority 35. And that is all for my presentation. And now I will pull up our blue list, if that's okay, unless anyone has questions. I know that was a lot to go through.
So the blue list being the capital budget priorities and requests, just
Yes.
because I didn't print it out on a color printer. So if anyone's looking at the top of their page, I had to write blue on top. I know.
For many years, it started before I was district manager. We distinguished our capital list on blue paper and our expense list on yellow. I don't know the origins of that, but I think it's pretty neat in the office to readily pull them when we need them. So I'm going to share that screen next. Let's see. This. Expense capital. Oh, can you see this? Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Been there and done that.
And I'm going to have my list out and so we can write on it. So our request number 1 and number 2 pertain to the Shore Road Promenade and bicycle path. The first one is to initiate an immediate study of the Belt Parkway infrastructure to address possible undermining caused by breaches along the nearby Shore Road Promenade and bicycle path. The Belt Parkway is an important thoroughfare and a study should commence to determine if current drainage infrastructure is in need of upgrades. And then number 2 relates to an immediate engineering study of the Shore Road Promenade and bicycle path to address recurring cave-ins, threatening public safety. The study must include a complete investigation of the infrastructure of the adjacent combined sewer outfalls to determine the source of water breaches. Recurring cave-ins pose an immediate safety risk to cyclists and pedestrians. The engineering study needs to protect this vital waterfront recreational space as well as protect the adjacent belt park.
Okay, before you continue on, it's great that they have funded the design of this, but if they're not looking at the infrastructure, the problem with the seawall there, if we don't put money into the seawall, we're just throwing good money after bad. We're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Until the infrastructure and the seawall is addressed, this is not a responsible proposal.
Well, I mean, I want to learn more about the engineering study. I know, I understand what Lori's saying, which is part of a larger,
Well, all I'm saying is that I think it brought attention to it. And I believe that at one of the meetings, and I can't remember which one anymore.
Oh, yes,
but at one of the meetings, or at least one, I actually attended 2 workshops on this. I brought up the fact that we have had this on our capital budget priorities for years, and that there is a problem. And I basically brought up similar to what Doris had said, that obviously first you have to make sure that it's sound, and then you can throw money into designing it. Also, I'm fairly certain that those funds are, I don't know that those funds are actually approved for that design, because it's really just at the sort of
oh no, the funds are there. I mean,
they are.
That's what I'm saying. So in this little box here, it says this
Which
request.
box?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to move over. Lori, I'm really trying to move it over.
I know. Please, I feel your pain. I just had the same experience where I was the one doing the sharing, and it's,
Yeah. So usually, I mean, typically the adopted budget response has always been,
yes.
I'm looking at Dean because
Joe, my question to you is, without pulling it up, which portion, what specifically is funded, which
so
portion?
the number, right, so the number 2
Right.
item says this request is partially funded. This is the first time that a adopted budget response has said it is partially funded. And during our Parks Committee
Yes.
meeting and at budget consultations, in Parks's presentation to the Brooklyn boards, and they're distributed by
Yes.
community district, I looked at this and it said funded design 7.6 million. And that the design was going to be ready in fall of 2021. So I'm happy, I'm thrilled, I'm excited about
So,
that.
okay, it was the design that, okay, so I had to attend, it was that design, the workshops I had attended. So I did bring up this point.
Right.
And I really can't remember the representative from which agency. It was probably Parks, but there might have been someone else there. And they basically said, oh yeah, well, the way this was designed was so it was designed that water actually could, come in through, it wasn't a solid seawall. It's designed, and we're well aware of the fact that, with the tides, it's, washing out, some of the ground underneath, and, we're aware of this, and it's been a problem, and we've sort of been putting Band-Aids on it for a long time.
Right.
But yes, that would have to be addressed. Whether that's funded, I don't really know how far into the plan they went with that, but point being, they're aware.
Okay.
They say, Joe,
Yes.
when they say funded design, the design they're referring to is the engineering study, not
Correct.
a design of, it's the engineering
It's
study.
the engineering study. Correct.
And also, I don't know if how many people will recall, but State Senator Gounaris, a couple of years ago, came up with a very comprehensive package and design of Shore Road Promenade, bike path leading all the way down into Coney Island,
Yes.
widening it, connecting at Bay Parkway. So, there's a lot of stuff out there, about potential things that can happen.
Mhm.
So you know what, I think where a big portion of this is within Board 10. And I'm excited to learn more about their final design and this project. So the reason why we made the report, but I think we should still continue to advocate because it is our jewel and the district's jewel. And it's
Yes,
we still have recurring cave-ins and, both, oftentimes along the Bell Parkway. The Bell Parkway floods terribly during, again, during heavy rain events. And both the bike path and the promenade have seen, cave-ins and continue to have cave-ins that are maintained day to day with Band-Aids. I think, did Dean say that? Yeah, that's a good word, with Band-Aids over the years. So moving on. So Lori, do you want me to keep going? Because usually we
Well,
have
yeah.
paper in hand and say, okay, we'll keep this as 1, we'll keep this as 2.
Well, I guess for the time being, I guess as we work down, right, sometimes we go back and say, wait a minute, carrot that one in, and that'll become 1. So I guess it's at the top. For the moment, we'll keep it there unless someone has something they think, once we get through the list, should be moved to the top. For number 1. So, however, we have number 2 is, funded for some purpose, right? We think it's funded for the reason that we've asked for it.
Yes, in part.
So
The
my
design
question
is in part, right?
Yes. So my question is, because some funding has gone toward this, do we keep it on? Or do we, sometimes what we do is we rephrase and say, well, we were really talking about this bit of it and we want to keep it on the list for this bit. So, we might say, our concern really is the cave-ins, right? And, you were told that the 7.6 million is going toward an engineering study, which I assume would address that. So do we keep this as number 2 is my question. Or some facet of it?
I think it should stay there, especially that we have money allocated.
And we're gonna need more money. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
yeah.
and we don't know what the proposal is. We don't know what it is.
Yeah, it costs 4.2 million to refurbish a field house, so I can't even, of course, we'll need more money for this big project. Yeah.
Causing me pain, Lori.
Okay, all right, so then I'll keep
Tongue in
moving
cheek.
along. I'll keep moving along the list.
Doris.
And anyone just jump out because when I have my screen share, I can only see 3 of you at a time.
Oh, yes, and for those of you who are new, just
Feel free to jump
shout it out, yeah.
Okay, so number 3 is capital funding for the relocation of the Bay Ridge Center for Older Adults. The Bay Ridge Center for Older Adults is in need of a new ADA compliant senior center for the over 1,000 seniors who attend and receive a multitude of services provided by the center. Its current location is not adequate for its service delivery needs. The senior population in CD10 ranks 3rd in New York. So they have renewed this request. So I'll keep moving.
I'm in favor of keeping that up toward the top.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
That place needs work
yes.
and our seniors need it,
Number 4, request to initiate new and larger sewers with greater capacity, including new catch basins to address flooding issues on Narrows and Colonial Road from Bay Ridge Parkway to 85th Street. A new catch basin was installed at Narrows in FY19, but further study is needed. Hasn't really helped their flooding issues. Next is reconstruct streets is the category. There are 2 identified street locations in Dyker Heights that may be in need of trench restoration or capital improvement due to recurring street cave-ins and depressions. Bay Ridge Avenue at 12th Avenue and 13th Avenue between Bay Ridge Parkway and 76th Street. These are still a problem, and just recently DOT did another patch on 13th Avenue to keep it going, but it keeps falling back in. The numbers, yes.
I would just like to make a comment. Our councilman is part of the, or I don't know, what is it, of the resilience project in the city council. And I think all of these issues fall into resiliency because originally after standing, we thought of resilience as water coming in from the ocean. But our biggest problem is when we have serious rainstorms or how to get water out. So should we in some way, I'm not going to change any of these, but make them an important issue for our elected officials?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this list is forwarded after the board votes on it to all of our elected officials in the district. And certainly, you know,
Yeah, I mean, to my mind, items 4 through 7, I mean, yes, resiliency, but I mean, to my mind, when you have cave-ins, I mean, these are just, it's hazardous circumstances.
Oh,
because,
great.
I mean, it's very dangerous. I think this should really, really be, toward the top of our list. It's,
and last year we decided to break them up into Diker Heights segments and Bay Ridge segments. So that's why number 6 is the same request for 96th Street between Shore and Marine and 87th Street
Yes.
between 3rd and 4th. So
Hey, Joe,
yes,
on number 5, it said, funding for part is recommended. Well, what part did they recommend? Does OMB supports funding for part?
yeah, so there was a trench restoration contract that was let. Trench restoration meaning, a citywide contract, but it wasn't these 2 locations. So when I spoke to the agency, we had one location in Board 10 that was taken off the list. That was 63rd Street and 9th Avenue. So they made a mistake because these 2 locations were not funded. There was a trench restoration contract, but not for any of these streets.
So let me ask you, should we break this up into 2 requests? Because they're saying it includes more than one request. Should break number 5 up into 2 specific requests?
Yeah, the reason why we divided them is just to kind of reserve our number of requests, because they, typically they look at our top 10, our top 15. And if we break them down even further, we might lose some of our other requests. I mean, I'm open to doing, whatever.
well,
So-
I do have a question about what Dean raised. When they say this request includes more than one proposal, I understand what does that mean? So what does that mean? Are they saying, you have to it's improperly submitted, or I don't know what the import of that is in their vernacular.
So Lori, I'm going to be really just straight. I think that, when
Please.
OMB looks at this, sometimes they have these automatic, responses, which this I think was one of them. I think they just made an error because you see the other one also has 2 identified locations, and it says due to fiscal constraints that the availability of funds is uncertain. It's the exact same request, just 2 different responses to it. Maybe I could change it to trench restoration. Let's change the wording, trench restoration,
Right.
street capital improvement in Diker Heights at the following locations, and the same, just change the language. So, because the request is we want a trench restoration contract. And it's unfortunate that a number of years ago, DEP just stopped doing trench restorations. It's the infrastructure that surrounds the sewer pipe that's collapsing, that's causing the street to collapse. And during budget consultations, I did raise it, and they said to keep advocating for it. So I think we should.
I think you should as well. And I do know that, you are very good with the way that you word these, and that, your submissions are very, very thorough, and you have a very good understanding of how things should be worded in order to get results. But I'm just afraid, and it's a good point that Dean brought up, that, the response will be, this does not compute, and then, it's on to next year. So maybe rephrase,
Okay.
just say, we want a trench restoration contract, and see if maybe that prevents it from getting this type of somewhat automated response.
Okay.
So Joe, is a DOT now responsible for the trench restorations? That's definitive now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So they'll be inspecting the restaurants, the trenches, all sorts
They're
of
just doing
things.
everything. Yeah. It's And if you recall, and Jane is on the call, Jane, 63rd and 9th.
Yeah, I think it's been on the list for a number of years now.
We're going on year 5, Jane. Year
Yeah,
5.
definitely. We're going to have birthday parties for the to commemorate this.
In the trench, we're gonna have
Yeah.
the parties in the trench, yeah, eventually.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
we have a situation where when the buses would make the turn onto the school buses would make the turn onto 9th Avenue, that you could literally see the dip. The holes had been refilled so many times. The sidewalk was so uneven, and they've
Wow.
paved and patched it so many times. So we're slated for this trench restoration, but we'll be having a big party when that happens.
And I'll just a
And
quick.
we'll be there.
Yeah, a quick fun fact, because I know Henry is on the executive committee now. I did a little bit of archive search when we met with the residents of 10th Avenue and found the file in our archives of that very intersection, Jane, 63rd and 9th, that failed in 1994 after the sewer contractor defaulted. So that intersection sadly has been a problem for some time, but hopefully next year it really will be fixed. So fingers crossed, because it is on a capital list. So I'll keep moving. To number 7, residents have contacted the district office concerns about recurring depression, sewer backups, aging sewer system requiring study at several locations within Community District 10. And I listed them: 12th Avenue from Bay Ridge Avenue, 74th Street, 3rd Avenue from 68th to 78th Street, 11th Avenue from 62nd to 72nd Street, 13th Avenue from Bay Ridge Avenue to 79th Street, Bay Ridge Avenue from Shore Road to 7th Avenue. And now we have more locations. So my question is to the executive committee, do we just list those? Do we just add the new 10th Avenue from 77th Street to 86th Street, 79th Street from Narrows to, I think it was Shore. The other locations that were asked for this year, do we lump them all into one request for sewer, a resiliency, budget capital priority, and just put every one of those into this number?
Yeah,
Or do we-
I would offer a suggestion for consideration.
Okay,
If we list everything, maybe we can word it where the list is in priority order, 1 through 10, with 1 being the worst. I don't know.
okay.
Well, in
But
your
I would be-
experience, Joe, how,
Yeah.
which way gets us there? You know what I mean?
So
Which way is most likely to get them to do it? To my mind, and I'm not an engineer, but I would think that this is a bigger problem, which may need a greater study. But, then again, they may say, no, well, we normally do this section by section. And if my fear is that if we lump it all, they'll just toss out the whole request. So really I'm asking you for and some of the other people who have been on the board longer than I have, in your experience, what do we have to do to get the results?
So in my experience, I have found that usually capital projects that are funded oftentimes are from the loudest advocacy. And I do believe, following Isaias, there has been a very loud cry from residents, not only in our district, but citywide, and a focus on stormwater management. And I do believe that there may be near future opportunities for study, for additional funds outside of the water tax, the water and sewer tax levy that pretty much funds most of DEP's capital, emergency capital that goes to DDC for funding. I think there may be additional federal funds perhaps in the near future, because you know, I think the focus and the light is really shining on our infrastructure needs as it relates to, and we saw the impacts, the lives lost, I mean, we were really hit hard this year. You know, we did get additional federal funding support for those who were impacted by the storm. And we had some portions of our district that certainly were impacted this year, some who had never been impacted from a storm before, but these areas are different. These are areas that have seen recurring backups and flooding, and they saw it again in Isaiah. So I think there's an opportunity, my bottom line is, to shine a light on this and perhaps prioritize those locations, as Dean said. I think that was a good idea, to do that in one budget request that's, you know, perhaps resiliency, sewer infrastructure, and Board 10.
Mhm.
I would just like to reinforce that we have many of these issues, and resiliency is a really important issue, citywide and nationwide. But we probably have 4 or 5 issues that address resiliency, and I think we should leave them as they are. But I think we should also extract all of the issues about resiliency and send them directly to our councilman.
Okay, sounds good. Anyone else?
Josephine, you mentioned about it being like an especially challenging because of the recurring storm system, but I'm looking to see if there's anything specifically about that in the explanation, or if that might be something that you wanted to just add in, that like this is why it's become so dire because of these.
Yeah, I could work on that language. On this language, I do say recurring depressions and sewer backups, an aging sewer system that requires study at several locations.
Right.
But maybe I could make that stronger in language.
Because as you said, there's environmental issues that have impacted it and that have made it worse within the last 2 years, specifically the number of storms that we've experienced.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay, so item number 8, priority 8, has been funded. This is the Owl's Head Path, lower path erosion. So I think we can take this off and move it to continued support because it was funded. So we will move to number 9. This is Cannonball Park, John Paul Jones Park. The park is enjoyed by young and old. The path and benches have deteriorated and need replacement. Also, water service needs to be repaired. There are no operating water fountains. So New York City Parks has identified the pathways in Cannonball Park to be refurbished. It's a $2 million estimate on their capital needs analysis. So they have recommended this and put this at the top of their list for funding. And that was shared to us at the Parks Committee meeting.
Okay, I'm very happy with that because I live right there and I know how horrible the conditions are in that park. But if we keep it as number 9, it's in our top 10.
Well, it'll move up now to 8 because we took out number 8. It will move up.
Okay, so if it's up to 8, we are telling the Parks Department that this is an important priority of our community.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, because as long as they have made the same, we're going to do some money. We want you to do more money. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be quiet for the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
I'll try.
So the next number, which would be the new number 9, because these all kind of moved up one, is the Shore Road Park perimeter sidewalks. The Hex Blocks areas from 72nd to 84th and 86 to 97th Street. I mean, they're really in bad shape. And so I'm happy that I think this should be in the top 10. So that's at number 9.
Yeah, they are in there. I actually, often just avoid walking on them.
Yeah,
that bad.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So the next one is the 76th Street Step Street. I mean, as you know, we've had many visits in the past by residents that live off of 76th Street. The step street is in poor condition with broken steps and inadequate broken railing. So the railing is still pretty crappy. The front retaining wall was repaired. The steps continued to overflow during heavy rains. And the landscaping, we wrote landscaping to the side because we continually get complaints about the need for landscaping, and it's just a mess on either side of the steps that often overgrows and comes over. So I didn't hear from the 76 residents yet this year, but we heard from them last year during our budget hearings. Number 12, which would be the new number 11, McKinley Park Comfort Station provide handicap accessibility. This was new to us last year. The comfort station is in need of upgrades. That was not yet recommended. I think the response was, let me just see here. Most of our parks are ask your elected official. Also at McKinley Park, the bocce courts have not been utilized. They've actually grown, trees and weeds. And we received a request for the area to be reimagined to develop perhaps new volleyball courts or other recreational features. The next item is the interior path of Shore Road Park from 79th Street to 95th Street. The interior path is in dire need of restoration. This was funded, so we can move this to continued support. Next is that request from Narrows Botanic Gardens requested the Department of Environmental Protection establish an oyster garden alongside the shoreline adjacent to the Owl's Head wastewater treatment facility. We've contacted the agency. We haven't heard back, so they have asked for this renewed request. The next item is Community Board 10 advocates for additional capital improvements at Owl's Head wastewater treatment plant. At one time, this was in the top 10 of the board, but they have really been working on upgrades to the plant over the years, and there's been a number of capital projects, and our complaints really are minimal as far as odors but we've opted to keep this on our capital priorities list to make sure that DEP knows that our one treatment plant is a priority. Next is yes.
Can we get an update from them as to where they stand? Because they were replacing one of the buildings. They were doing a lot of work there over the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay, Tracy, we're going to schedule a meeting.
They were adding a dechlorinization plant.
Yes.
Yes.
When was the last time they gave us that presentation? It was about 1.5 years ago?
Probably about more than a year ago.
Okay.
So I wrote that down. We could do that next month. Next item is rehabilitate the 3 remaining ball fields at Dyke Beach Park. That was included in the capital needs analysis submitted by Parks. Next is the complete rehab of Shore Road Park Field 4 at 95th Street. Next is the complete rehab of Shore Road Park Ball Field at 74th Street.
Joe,
Yes.
I just have a quick question. Which one's number 4 on item? What is now
Which is
17?
field 4.
Which is field 4?
That's at 95th Street. So is that next to St. Pat's? The field next to it? There's one field that's in good shape and it's the one next to it. It's the one
Not the good one, yeah.
Yeah. That's the, I'm sorry, I could pull up pictures of these. I do have them somewhere.
It's okay.
Yeah, 97th Street was refurbished a number of years ago, but 95th Street still is not, has not been refurbished. And 74th Street, that is the, to the north, that floods that one ball field. I know it's used a lot. I believe that it's used by Zavarian and other groups, but that field is in need of refurbishment. Complete renovation.
I'm just, because it floods, Because could we include that in our resiliency concerns?
I wouldn't, because it's a different agency, because this is.
Okay, I
Department
trust
of
you.
Parks.
I
Yeah.
trust your judgment.
Okay.
Well, Joe, is that the Zavarian field, the one with the fence around it and the dugout
Yes.
and the whole thing?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Okay, next up is the complete renovation of Shore Road Park at Third Avenue. This is the small gated unused area of parkland that needs to be developed for some type of community use. I took a tour of this park and it's just been really underutilized, and be nice if something was developed there.
This isn't the dog run that we were talking about earlier?
No. It's just off, as you walk down from Fourth Avenue on the interior pathway, it's about a block in. And I will tell you, 45 years ago, it was a playground. And there was construction done and nothing was ever restored. And it could be a lovely seating area with planting, and it would be an asset to the community.
So
I know
I'm having a bit of a problem envisioning exactly where this is inside the park on the interior path.
Okay, you know where the building is on Fourth Avenue with the comfort station?
Yes, where the
Like
bus
building-
stop is, yeah.
Just,
When you go down the path like that ramp.
yeah, right.
section.
There's this
The
empty,
fenced
there's an
in-
empty section.
Yes,
Right,
okay.
that's it. It was originally a playground with
Yeah, I mean,
monkey bars and
it's just,
swings and,
yeah.
But I thought that's where they're putting the dog run. Where is the
Right.
dog run?
that's what
I
I
thought
thought.
that too. Yeah, I thought that's where the dog run was.
Well, I better find that out because that wasn't where I envisioned, but I have visioning issues, so.
Because I remember in the dog run presentation, they were talking about, the section that Doris had mentioned that used to be a playground.
Right.
And I remember them saying there were certain remnants of that were going to be removed. So that's why I'm curious also because I think where Third Avenue intersects there, because the location here stated as Third Avenue, that's farther past that area.
You're right. It's closer to Fourth. It's closer
I'm
to
trying
Fourth.
to picture.
So the
where-
dog run is Fourth Avenue at Shore Road and the Belt Parkway. And I'm looking at the map and the area for the dog run looks as if to me on this map is not the same area, that there is an area adjacent to it. Let me see if I could pull it up.
Okay, so Joe, is it so I think I know what you're talking about.
I
So
have it
dog
here,
run-
but-
The dog run, well, it kind of comes, there's like a
The dog
triangle.
runs closer to Fourth Avenue.
Yes, so then when you get
But right
past,
here is the playground and here is the dog run.
yeah, so it is. we
Well,
are
the dog run
talking-
is in the old, there used to be the soccer field,
Right.
okay, I got it.
So we are talking about the same area, Doris. That is
Yes.
that
Yes.
little wasteland over there.
Right, but it's not
Um,
included in the perimeter of the dog run project. You see, it's in red
Yes.
in this.
Right.
I-
Okay,
I know they're going to say, go ask your elected officials for money for this, but to my mind, I think that I might want to move that up because it's just been
in the collected
disgusting.
area and.
Yeah,
so-
like it's sort of fenced in. There's just a bunch of junk in there. It's just an area for like bugs and what have you. It's just such a waste. And it's been that way for an insane amount of time. Maybe
Okay.
maybe they'll be enthusiastic because they just did the dog run and they'll want to spruce up the rest of it.
Okay,
I don't know.
But I actually hear what you're saying, Lori. It's an area that needs revitalization and input and vitality.
okay, so if you want to bump it to 15 or to where we could flip it where the The Oyster Garden, we could put it right before that one, if you'd like.
Wait, where's the garden?
The Oyster Garden is 15, so then that would go, well, it's actually
It's actually.
It's actually
13,
13, yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay,
so then,
so then all the numbers will trickle down. I made a note of it. It'll be a
Okay.
little crazy on this format to do this, but I will revise the list when we're finished here
yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Okay. So moving right along. Leif Erikson Park Field. I think I keep spelling Leif Erikson wrong here. I'm just noticing.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your
Is it right?
your
Is it correct?
Icelandic people will be upset.
Yeah. Okay. The ball field, 67th Street at 6th Avenue are in dire need of restoration. The ball fields are in poor condition and well utilized by local leagues. Next is the tennis courts. Need to be refurbished, and we had a few of them. And I think only Bay H Street tennis courts were included in the capital needs analysis. So I think what we have left are Bay H Street, Leif Erikson Park, and Shore Road Park are the remaining three. I think all the others have been done. So moving along. Request to initiate study of combined sewer outfalls, the infrastructure along the Shore Road Promenade from the 69th Street Pier to Bay H Street to determine if upgrades are needed in the wake of Superstorm Sandy. So these are outfalls. We have 3 in Board 10. And a number of years ago, it was recommended to us to kind of peel this out because it's DEP infrastructure along the promenade that's separate and apart from the seawall. So the response, further study is needed. I mean, every year we kind of get further study is needed, but let's see. Next
Maybe
one is,
this,
yes,
maybe this is another opportunity, as we said, suggested previously, to tighten up the language around storms and the increasing
resilience.
intensity of storms.
Okay, will do. Okay, so next is, I think of Pierre Lehu on this one. Initiate engineering study for placement of a comfort station on the Shore Road Promenade. Residents, especially seniors, have requested an accessible comfort station along the Shore Road Promenade. An engineering feasibility study is being asked to determine if a comfort station could be installed along the bike path. We had at one point been tasked by DOT to look at a place for these temporary Samusa toilets, and we at the time had asked, because a lot of seniors do raise the issue, and we're told that it was not feasible. The request is not recommended for funding. So I don't know.
I'm just like
Yeah,
to
I
add a
think
comment
that-
here. When we talked about that section of Shore Road that used to be a playground and isn't, when it was torn up, it was to connect the Fort Hamilton Army Base to the Owl's Head treatment plant in the early 1970s. And there really is, the reason there are no comfort stations or water fountains on the Shore Road Promenade is that there's no water, there's no sewage outlets. But if we could find out, and probably the fort has the best records, where that sewer line went and where the water lines went, we might be able to find in the far future, find a place for comfort stations and water fountains on Shore Road.
Okay, so do we leave this or do we take it off?
No, leave it.
Leave it, okay.
Well, I'm thinking of when they were refurbishing the field house in Shore Road Park, and they had decided to sort of truncate that project and make it just, you know, a replacement of the roof and everything. And we said, well, you know, why can't you, you know, upgrade it and make it better? And they said the same, one of their concerns was that, you know, in order to get the amenities really over from, you know, the residential side past the street, you know, the Shore Road itself and through the park to that location was, you know, very, very costly. And so they really did not, you know, decide to upgrade a lot of the systems because of that. But one thing I will also mention is that then this is going back to their funding of, you know, that engineering study with regard to all of Shore Road, and that
yes.
in some of those presentations, they were suggesting not rest stations, but water fountains. So it seems to me if you can get running water over there, you know, and that might be something that they would fold into that envelope, but you know,
Excellent observation.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep it and add, I think we should add water stations too.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, complete rehab of Shore Road Park Field 3 at 79th Street. 26, complete refurbishment of Dyker Beach Park Playground, including play equipment, water fountains, sprinklers, and infrastructure. New perimeter sidewalk around the Dyker Beach Golf Course. The sidewalk area is heavily used by pedestrians and cyclists as a form of recreational exercise. The perimeter sidewalk is uneven in many areas and should also be widened in certain sections for pedestrian safety.
I really like that one. And maybe we should move it up because, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people, I mean, I've seen, you know, in my going around, I mean, I haven't used it myself, but in speaking to people, and a lot of people really do use that perimeter and that perimeter sidewalk that goes all around. And it is in, you know, pretty bad disrepair. I think that might be something that might be,
I
have more chances of having that granted than possibly getting the bathrooms put on promenades. Maybe we could just bump it up a little bit.
okay.
I'm with you. I agree.
Sounds good. I
Because of-
actually was hoping to have an urban fellow student actually do a visioning of this project because I think that there is so much more that can be done here because it really is so well utilized. So
Yeah.
we'll bump it up to the same kind of like around in the 16 range, do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Because the sidewalks are so bad there that people actually walk out into the street and it's incredibly dangerous. But
And
because the sidewalks are so unsafe.
And it's an area that's just, I mean, you know, it's almost all, you know, parks and community areas. I mean, you have, you know, it could be, it really could be so much more than it is. And
If we
it's
could
so,
get
you
rid
know,
of all
put
the
to a better
trucks,
use.
too.
You know, when Councilman Brannan had his participatory budgeting, this issue was also, you know, raised, advocating for funding around the golf course. And really so many people do utilize it. And Dyker Heights doesn't have a track. You know, we're blessed to have Fort Hamilton High School's, you know, field track, but there is no track in Dyker Heights, and neighbors and residents from all over the district and other parts of Brooklyn really do come to utilize it. So I agree. Okay.
And
Moving along.
especially as there may be the potential of the new school coming in that area as well. You know, but I would also, just like as a reminder, we've had so many issues on the board of like the parking that's happening along that park.
Yes.
And along that area, that this is really the trucks, you know,
The
you can
trucks,
go by
yes.
at any time. I saw like mobile homes.
No, there are a lot of
Like-
campers now. And that's
Yeah,
why I'm
campers.
really hoping for my urban fellow to
Yeah.
give us a vision, because I think
Well, maybe.
I think there's an opportunity here. to really look at this area, because you're right, it's become, you know, a commercial truck, you know.
Illegal commercial
illegal
truck.
commercial. And we've tried
Well,
so many things, you know. I
maybe,
mean,
you know, if it were, you know, refurbished somewhat and better
Right.
lighting brought to the area so that, you know, I mean, because it does get darker earlier, you know, if we could maybe get it refurbished, that would reduce that sort of, you know, truck parking, you know, because it's dark and there's nobody there. But I think that if it were refurbished, you know, it maybe if you build it, they will come.
Right, okay,
So.
I agree. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's keep going. The complete refurbishment of Leif Erikson Park between 5th and 6th Avenues, including play equipment, water fountains and infrastructure. Next is a new perimeter sidewalk to replace uneven hex blocks around Leif Erikson Park, Fort Hamilton Parkway, 8th Avenue from 66 to 67 streets. Last year, we had the same seniors who contacted us this year. Let's see, next is the refurbishment of the terrain adjacent to the Belt Parkway and highway area adjacent to Shore Road Promenade. The Narrows Botanic Gardens did visit the board this year and renewed the request for that. Tree guards, that was a request we received last year along Bay Ridge Parkway between 4th and 5th Avenue to protect street trees. Following a block-wide beautification effort and recent landmarking. And actually, the councilman had honored the block there. They've done a magnificent job with their street tree wells and beautifying them. And they continue to advocate for tree guards. Next is JJ Carty Park, which we can move because it was funded and move to continued support. Next is the Comfort Station at Russell Peterson Playground. Most of that park is being refurbished, but the Comfort Station has not yet been, so that could remain. The Diker Beach Park barbecue area at Poly Place off of 14th Avenues. That was a renewed request again this year. There are currently only 6 antique light poles. Oh, this is the Bay Ridge Towers residents of the Bay Ridge Tower have complained about the pathways, overgrown conditions, and extremely poor lighting. Next, yes?
I would advocate for strengthening number 35 because that entire park because that's from 3rd Avenue to Ridge, right?
Yes.
I don't think there's been any work to that park in about 80 years. There's a staircase from 3rd Avenue that disappears into weeds. There's, I mean, there's literally nothing there. And you're talking about one of the most densely populated parts of the district. I think besides light poles, that park needs a complete redesign and restoration, and that we should move that up higher than 35.
Okay.
I support that.
Okay, we'll
I
move
do.
that
I
up.
agree with that.
Okay, we'll push that back up to like maybe in the 15, 16s. Is that okay?
Josephine, I would also just,
Yeah.
that I think that what's enumerated as 29, which I don't even know what we're at anymore because you're the master of the list.
Yeah.
But that sidewalk around Leif Erikson Park, I mean, it really is a sidewalk. I mean, and they put here, you know, bring it to your elected officials. I know it sort of falls within parks but it's actually a sidewalk and it's horrendous.
It's terrible. It
And that
truly
is a very,
terrible.
very, very, I mean, that's not that that area is really heavily used.
Yes, agreed.
You know, there's people there all the time and there are a lot of seniors that go to that park. My question is, it's parks, I know because it's next to the park, but it really shouldn't be. It's a sidewalk.
I know, but it is parks.
Is there anything we can do there?
So
We
the
can't
perimeter side,
recharacterize
right?
it in some way?
The perimeter sidewalks adjacent to parks are Parks Department property. And so they would be responsible for its repair. And I think we have to be loud on it. It really is terrible. I know some of the seniors, I live a few blocks away, and during the pandemic, it really was an oasis for many seniors to get out and gather in that sitting area off of Fort Hamilton Parkway. And the street conditions are just, I went out the other day with Dorothy to take some pictures to put in the district needs statement to exemplify the bad shape it's in.
So, I mean, I know I was going back a little and I apologize for that, but I was just like looking at the renumbering. That one, I don't know where it ends up now. Maybe it's at like 26 or something, but maybe could we bump that
Yep,
up a little
We
bit?
could
Because
bump that up. Yep,
to me, it's
Yeah.
just a hazardous situation.
okay.
Okay, sorry.
That's
You
Right,
know,
back to
the-
where we were. I apologize.
And the same for Leif Erikson. And so I think too, when we do the district need statement, I mean, to Henry's point, you know, sometimes we shine a light on things and I'll go out and take photos of the area and make sure that when we send to the elected officials, we'll include those photos and really highlight those that we talked about tonight, moving up.
And Josephine, if there's anything else, if you ever need help photographing things, I'd be happy to go out and photograph and help you with that. I think that's a really valuable way to amplify and really show what we're saying. So please let me know. I'm happy to help.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the overgrowth and the litter, like are in and around these areas, really add to the, you know, the deterioration of those two parks in particular.
Okay. All right, so that really concludes our last year's list. The remaining are all funded. Are all funded items, their continued support. So
Well,
did we miss any of the new requests? Let me just go back and look.
let me see. Number. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Nope.
I'm gonna stop the share. I'm gonna go back to our other list to just make sure I didn't miss anything of our new requests. Sorry. Okay, the new ones, we talked about this. We added those, the new sewers, new catch basins and that resiliency. Diker Beach Park, reconstruct paths throughout the H Street quadrant of Diker Beach Park. These were identified by the Parks Department, both of these two, district-wide tree and sidewalk contract and district-wide curb and curb contract. So these are 4 more new capital requests. Should we just add them to the end? How do you all feel?
Well, isn't larger capacity new sewers at 79th and Narrows already in our request?
Yeah, they're already in. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Those are already in, not the sewer ones, because we've already, agreed to incorporate
Okay.
those in. Some are renewed. The new ones are the bottom 4 from Diker Beach Park, specifically the paths, which we don't have as a capital request, the basketball courts at Diker Beach
Yes.
Park, the district-wide tree and sidewalk contract, which would be a new capital request, and a district-wide curb contract with the Department of Transportation. That would be a new request. We can just tack those on to the end to include them on the list, or if you wanted to kind of place them in a general area, beginning, middle, or end, we could just say beginning, middle, or end.
I would say just put them on the
Yeah.
tack to the end.
Okay. I like to see everyone. We're back. Okay. Very good. So Lori, do you want to, we typically don't do too much movement on the expense list. Do you want to go through that? I mean, it's 8:30. That's up to you guys. Have you all looked at it? Do you have any changes? Do you want me to bring it up?
Could you bring it up?
Yeah.
I think it would help us all. Because otherwise we just say. Boom, 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 boom.
I did look through it. I didn't feel very strongly that we still need all of it, but I mean, I didn't feel like very strongly that anything should be moved.
Okay, so the first one is very self advocating. It's increased enhanced funding for community boards. And to provide broader outreach, address technological issues and professional planning expertise. Number 2 has historically been advocating for increased patrol strength at 68 police precinct as well as civilian personnel levels. Number 3 is fire department and EMS advocating for funding levels. Number 4 are request Department of Buildings inspectors needed to address illegal conversion complaints. Number 5, the number of seniors receiving home delivered meals continues to rise. I'll have to find out, I'll update this, what the waiting list is for home delivered meals.
I would just say, I would like to see number 6, the additional crossing guards moved out,
Moved
up,
up.
up.
Okay, we did lose a crossing guard this year and we have parents very upset at the corner of Ovington Avenue and 7th Avenue.
You want to
Oh,
put
wow.
it, you want to put it to,
I would put it fairly high up.
what, 4, or we have funding, police, EMS, and then would be crossing guards.
Okay.
And then next, bump the illegal conversions down.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, more frequent litter basket collection. That's the corner baskets, Department of Sanitation. Number 8 is restore forestry, and based on our and street tree maintenance, this is definitely should be in the top 10. Next is increase staffing levels for mosquito control. This is needed in areas of high mosquito concentration. We continue to advocate for. Number 10, library, keeping library branches open additional hours within the boundaries of CB10, purchase additional computers and books. Number 11, CB10 has recurring illegal dumping on commercial corridors and corner baskets. So DSNY advocacy for requiring staffing to enforce illegal regulations. We support DSNY sanitation enforcement staffing levels for after hours weekend enforcement of illegal dumping and stoop line sidewalk obstruction violations. Next is park maintenance and safety requests, increase personnel to keep park restrooms open beyond 3 p.m. Many parents and children utilize the parks after 3 p.m. Facilities need to be available for use. Provide more programs in parks or recreational services, funds to support 5 playground associates who provide maintenance and recreational programs at McKinley Park, Dyker Beach Park, Shore Road Park at 79th Street, JJ Carty, Owl's Head Skate Park, and Leif Erikson Park. Next is to increase staffing levels for inspection and baiting services for rodent control. Actually, our rodent complaints are pretty high.
Yeah, Joe, I was going to say, do you want to swap rodents with mosquitoes?
Okay.
Because our rodent complaints have gotten
Yep,
to a much greater level.
okay,
And rodents are year-round, mosquitoes aren't.
yes, I agree.
Yes. So
Okay,
flip-
that-
maybe
I'm
flip
gonna-
flop them.
I will flip those, okay? Hire additional gardeners and grass cutting crews, and for everyone who was on the Parks Committee meeting this week, there is 1 gardener. We have 1 gardener. I think we
Mhm.
should really make that stronger in this language.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same, that we should move this up.
Move this up.
Yeah,
Can we put that there's 1 gardener? I mean,
Yes.
in the statement here?
We
Because
have
it's
to
just
put
so
that.
unbelievable that there is 1 gardener for
gardener,
all that area.
I agree.
yes,
And
and he is miserable. He is.
She can't imagine why.
so can we put that up to number 10, and then just move everything else down? So it's in our top 10.
Yes.
Good idea.
That's great.
Okay. Next is increased funding for forestry inspectors. Current inspection times have increased to growing tree population. So we know this is true. Actually, I have to update this because the average response time is much greater. So I will update that. Okay. Increase PS funding allocations to hire additional maintenance operations staff to do rodent abatement. So this is specific to parks, rodent abatement. So they have their own inspectors for rodents at parks. So that's why it's separate from the other rodent, from Department of Health. Next is in keeping with Mayor's Vision Zero initiative, additional traffic control agents at high crash and heavily traveled commercial corridors. These include near the entrance of the BQE to handle Verrazano Narrows Bridge traffic disruptions and summer volume, 86th at 4th, 5th, 65th at 6th, 7th, 8th, and Fort Hamilton Parkway. Additional agents needed to handle Verrazano Narrows Bridge traffic disruptions at 92nd Street corridor, 86th Street at Gatling Place.
Wait a minute, I would like to see this moved up, whether,
Yeah.
I would also like to see Fourth Avenue and Shore Road added to this because the conditions there are incredibly dangerous.
I agree with Doris.
Okay. Move this up. Okay.
And add Fourth Avenue and Shore Road.
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
That has gotten significantly worse since the last time we looked at these.
Yeah.
And we all know why. Just move
Yes.
on.
Okay. To provide and implement a long-term plan to eradicate bed bugs. Bed bug infestation is a growing citywide problem. I have to tell you, I have not had that many bed bug complaints.
I was just gonna ask you, how, I haven't
I
heard.
really
anything.
haven't. I mean, I'm looking at this one and I realize we probably in some time, I haven't looked at the data specific to bed bugs, but we could probably move this one down.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. It's hard to do this. Okay. Erosion and maintenance of local parks. This was another theme. Henry could see he's shaking his head. That, you know, we have a lot of money in parks capital projects and we just don't have unfortunately, the funding for maintenance of local parks. And we do have a lot of erosion throughout our parks and just general overall maintenance. Maybe I could even, work on this language. We had a woman on the Parks Committee call mention the new steps going down at 95th Street and Shore Road and how there was beautiful landscaping and it's just not really maintained, hence the one gardener. Next is frequent complaints received by the district office regarding canine waste. It's a quality of life issue that frustrates residents, and there are Department of Sanitation enforcement people who do this, and we've advocated for this in the past. 22 is increased funding to expand parks enforcement patrols and security services at our local parks for vandalism, traffic violations, dog litter, barbecuing in non-designated areas, illegal vending, using permitted fields without a permit, and related violations to parks regulations. Next, and the last one on the list is murals and artwork added to public spaces. Recent mural work at Russell Peterson Playground and the overpass at Fort Hamilton Parkway and 62nd Street really have deterred graffiti and beautified both areas. And I think that this funding should be expanded. And we've included this on our list, and I think, it should stay Department of Cultural Affairs. And that's it on our expense list.
Anybody? Any questions, comments? No. Are we done?
Okay, it's 8:30.
Anyone awake?
I would just say on the canine waste issue, maybe the environmental committee could do some work on that because I have some old memories of a report that my husband did on that. And the amount of dog waste there is out there and how we can quantify it.
You know, and
He actually did a report that said there's enough dog urine in New York City to go way east side to west side from Central Park to 14th Street. And it's 2-foot waiting pool.
wow, we've actually had some young people in the last few months reach out to the district office who've worked on some scouting projects to put compostable bags and at certain parks, you know,
That I've seen.
to
And
encourage
that-
the
yeah,
proper disposal, which I think is a nice project. And we do get a lot of, you know, dog waste complaints. And I love those projects because I do think they go a long way and people look for those sometimes.
Mhm.
But if we could get
Yeah.
a couple of kids to figure out how much dog waste there is on our city streets and quantify it, it would blow us all away.
Yeah, I don't know how many
We'd
kids. would
never
sign up
leave
for
our
that.
houses.
I don't know how many, yeah.
I would not be in favor of using our fellows for that, but you know, there are some kids out there who want to do it. I don't know. It's an interesting project.
But it's a terrifying statistic.
Well,
You know, I would just also mention so much of the issues that have been brought up with traffic and transportation always come back to the fact that people are very frustrated with a lack of enforcement. And we know that our precinct is really spread so thin. When we had learned about how many officers are actually assigned to the 6-8, and when you think about how that translates to 24-hour shifts, that our precinct is really in need of more personnel. And, you know, so many of the quality of life issues that we have and issues that come up to our board really come down to that there are, just like there's only one gardener with these magnificent parks that we have. And so, like, I think we have to really hone in on that for our community.
And we're in a good
Yeah.
community. Imagine other communities.
Well,
Yes.
and especially, you know, as you bring up, you know, the situation with the one gardener, we are in a good community and we are very lucky to have so much park area. And the fact that we have such a great amount of, you know, percentage wise of park area and one gardener. And, you know, when I said he's very unhappy, I mean, you know, I talked to, you know, the people down at the park and everything. And some of the stories that I hear, they really do care about the parks and the things they have to deal with and to try to have to deal with one person, two people. They say, you know, we can't keep on top of it. We just can't, but they really do want to do a good job and they really do care. And I find that very sad that we don't get the funding for it. But, you know, the situation is that we end up, you know, as Dora said, well, you know, reach out to a group, you know, scouts or someone else to assume the responsibilities really that the city is not tending to. So it's very nice to involve kids in these things because they really are community-wide and clean up. But it's very sad that in this city, we're actually looking to those kinds of projects to provide really our services that I feel the city should be providing. You know, but for now, we'll just put it on the list, I guess.
yeah, we are very fortunate to have a really robust volunteer network. You know, from Narrows Botanic to many of the volunteers at Shore Road to Friends of Owl's Head, and you know, they put a lot of you know, to a lot of groups who volunteer throughout the year, whether it's a partnership for parks event or some of the Girl Scouts. I know Shirley has been at many with her troop. I've been at many of the parks cleanups, but you're right. We have a lot of park lands that requires a lot of maintenance, and maintenance on parks is a lot of hard work. So we need more than one gardener for sure.
Josephine,
And-
I have to leave, so
Okay.
you can text me the question if we have to vote. I'm for everything.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well,
good
why
night,
don't, are we
everybody.
calling the question? You want to just, before Barbara skedaddles?
Yeah. Okay.
So, all in favor?
Is it up there? Do you see it?
It's up.
Okay.
School budget, yes.
It's up, but the
vote.
host and panelists cannot vote.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I have to, Dorothy always tells me I have to click some button up here. Wait, let me see. Uh-oh.
We can all just raise our hands and can count.
Yeah, why don't
Yeah.
everyone raise their hand, because I lost it.
All in favor? I think we're
Okay.
unanimous. Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you,
So-
everyone. I'm sorry
Thank
about
you,
that.
thank you.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Good night,
You too.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Good
night,
Always an
everyone.
interesting discussion.